Welcome back, everybody, to the No Starving Artist podcast. We are moving up there. We're almost to 40 episodes. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. As always, you can head to www.nsadance.com for all things No Starving Artists, the podcast, mentorship, dance critiques, merch, all of the above. So be sure to check that out. All the links will be in the description. But we've got a fantastic guest on the podcast today that I'm very, very excited to chat with about some things that we haven't chatted about. I don't know how, but we're still coming across topics within dance that we haven't talked about. So I'm very, very excited to get into those today. So let's jump right into it.
Hey, what's up?
Galit Friedlander, welcome to the No Starving Artist podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm actually really excited that we're doing this in the evening because this feels like a hang.
That's
It feels like
true.
a
That's
hang.
true. That's true. That's true. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, and who you are.
All right. Hello, everyone. Besides having a lot of syllables in my name, born, raised, and originally trained in New York City. I've been residing in LA for about 17 years now. My background spans the dance world, from dancing professionally to choreographing. I did 6 years within the WNBA as a lead choreographer, assistant choreographer for Prince. I do cross training for dancers, so I've been in fitness for about 20 years. I want to make sure that my dancers are healthy and that we're just thriving in our artistry forever. And then I'm the host and creator of the Dance Speak podcast, interviewing thrivers in and around the dance world for about 9 years now. Oh my God, that was so fast. I thought I was going to be slower. Did I talk too fast?
No, that was fantastic. That was
Okay.
perfect. That was like dialed in.
Woo! I didn't
Dialed.
expect that. Sometimes you surprise yourself.
Yeah, that was great. My first question, easy question, is
Dope.
how awesome was working with Prince?
It was amazing. I was very green. I was 23, and I thought that when you're 23, you think you know things.
Yeah, 100%.
And so it was the real duality of exciting, surreal, exhilarating, intimidating, all of the things. And I'm deeply grateful for it. It exceeded any of my dreams, and I didn't expect that to happen early.
I love it.
So.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's jump back to the beginning. It's something that I like to do. How'd you get into dance? Did you grow up in dance? Were you, a competitive kid? What was kind of your journey early on with dance?
Sure. So I was flopping around. Of like flopping, I mean just having fun in ballet class when I was 5, 6. And then my teacher, Danny, she fell in love and got married and moved away to Canada. And
Shout out, Danny.
Shout out to Danny. I had about one dance class with the new teacher. And it's interesting because I remember that class, and I remember being so bored, and I was done. And then I woke up one morning. I was 12 going on 13. Having challenges navigating the emotional landscape of what I think was depression, and just that age can be really tough. Mm-hmm. And I asked my mom one morning, we both remember this morning, why, just curious, like, why did I go back into dance? I just never went back to it. And she didn't know, and I didn't know. So I started with a jazz class at Steps in New York. And from there, it was just, I remember that hour I had a break from life in the most beautiful way. I didn't know that's what was going to happen. And then after the hour, I returned, and I was so excited to get better. And so I started taking ballet, and then I got into hip hop, and then I got into the underground scene and got into house and whacking and voguing. And this was before you didn't have many. Shout out to Broadway Dance Center for being one of the first studios to have street styles. It was hard to find the underground in the overground spaces. So then I got super immersed in it. And that's my short, concise version.
Yeah, yeah. And when did you brought this up in your intro, and I love this sort of duality that you have. When did fitness start crossing over? Was that before, during, after? When did that kind of intersection happen for you?
Such a good question. You're so great. Just even with the Hates Picket in the background, I'm like, geez, I want to be like you when I
I
grow
do
up.
this sometimes.
I'm also blending in with my background. I should
It's
have
okay.
noticed that
It's okay.
sooner.
It's okay.
It bees that way. So I started 12, 13, and I'm with dancers. I was very aware of this that had started when they were 2, 3, and I wanted to get better as fast as possible. And I knew that I think because my mom's in the piano world and she deals with piano technique to get a lot better at the thing. You have to practice a specific way to get better, not just keep on repeating if it's not the ultimate way. So I was looking for what are ways for me to cross train to get better at dance at the thing. And my teachers barely had responses, and there really wasn't anything in the space that I got an answer for when it was the street styles, or even if we want to talk the hybrid jazz funk. And so I was asking, how do I get better faster? How do I need to train? There's not an answer. And I knew for ballet, Pilates, and yoga, but I was not in the ballet trajectory, and I had started with that. So I started learning. A friend and I split a personal trainer, and it really started with that. And yes, I'm very fortunate. I'm very grateful. She gave us the best deal in the world. And it wasn't even like, okay, in the end, I dealt with having overdeveloped muscle groups in places that were affecting my extension, or I was getting really stiff. So immediately I was learning things that help, but then learning things that are hindering. And that's where it started. It was with having this question that wasn't getting easily answered.
Yeah, I love that. And so what was like, you mentioned that there was things that were working, there were things that weren't working. Did you just slowly start to decipher over time and experience what worked and what didn't work? Didn't
Yeah,
work? Didn't work?
I love that. Didn't work. I love that. I feel like language is an art.
Yeah.
Shout out to language arts if they still teach that, and I have fun
Oh boy.
when it's imperfect. Sorry, not
No.
to live there.
No, it's
Um
great.
it was a mix. It was finding different nuggets from people who were excellent and deeply knowledgeable, and compiling them together, but then also learning from what was working and what wasn't. So, for instance, strength training, and also you have many different body types that require different things. I started with myself and then started learning also with other bodies, but not like trial and error, but understanding if I'm less mobile and less flexible, and strength training, I build it easily, then within someone who's hypermobile, they might need to actually work on the opposite end of the spectrum than I am. But yeah, so it was truly a mix, including I'm sorry, I completely was about to just go in a loop back, including
No, that's fine.
taking like floor bar from Amelietta Etlin. I hope she's still with us. And she had this technique she had developed for ballet in Switzerland when she didn't have money to take ballet lessons. And she was in her 60s at the time, jumping higher, turning better than everyone. And she had this whole method. So I learned from Etlin. And then I was learning things from my trainer. And then I was going in dance class and seeing what worked where. And I was really taking the best of the best from each discipline. So it was that mix.
Do you feel like that trial and error? Like, I feel like sometimes the things that I end up happening upon that work the best for my progress or for the people that I'm working with are the things that come about when I'm just like trying random things. You know, there's that some type of saying that's like, you know, you just throw stuff at the wall until something sticks. Do you feel like that is kind of the same in this realm where it's like you're just, you know, you're open to trying things and seeing what kind of works and what doesn't work?
I think it's just starting somewhere, whether you're really intentional and saying, okay, maybe it's the workout that's on trend.
Yeah.
So at the time, I think ballet bar workouts were
Okay.
really
Yeah.
big,
Yeah.
Pilates. So you're starting somewhere, but I think it's just the same when you're trying something at random. You're still understanding what your starting point is.
Yeah, that totally
So
makes sense. That totally makes sense. And to you, what's the benefit? Like for a dancer that's listening and they're like, okay, like sure, sounds great. What's like, why would I be interested in cross training? You know, besides kind of just being healthier overall?
Sure. Oh, so many things. So I'm going to use an example. So let's say that your note when you're dancing is hit harder or more full out. We get to dissect what does that mean, and we give the corresponding exercise or programming to get that, whether it's arm strength or whether it's your cardiovascular health, your stamina, the way that your body has the blood flowing through the system. You are, because you are dissecting it and getting really specific, you are going to maximize your results by having a different way of going about it than just doing the repetitive motion again and again. And I know that this has been used so many times, but Olympic athletes always cross train. Your top athletes and movers in the world cross train. Same for dance. The other thing is dancers tend to injure out, tend to get injured. You don't want to get injured. It might happen, period. But if you can avoid it, you're losing time. It's uncomfortable, and sometimes it knocks you out completely. Proper cross training can also keep you out of that injury zone. It's also a way that if you are already injured, dang, you can work on other things at the same time. So I don't know if this will speak to the audience, but I'll give an example. I had something from my knee I learned years ago. And I remember I was knocked out and I was talking to a popper, shout out to Bliss. And he was talking about, I work on my arm hits and my chest hits. Now, even if you're not a popper, getting the strength to have stronger hits when you're doing that hip hop choreo, or it even could be contemporary, you're going to have a different dynamic and attack on the movement. So I don't know if it translates when I try to describe it that way, but it's the same thing. Well, maybe your dance parents will get it. Rocky in the Rocky movies, you have Rocky training, cross training. Same thing for dance. So it's going to help with your dynamics if you're doing it right. Your stamina, keeping you out of injury. If you are injured, getting out of it ideally sooner, and also optimizing different movement qualities, parts of your body. Sorry, this is like late. That was not very eloquent. But e.g., whether it's your turns or extension on the other leg or your arms or your port de bras or whatever it is, you can really work that in and pinpoint.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And to you, in your opinion or in your experience, what's a good workload for somebody? Like if I'm a dancer that's dancing pretty consistently, am I looking to match that with my cross training in something else, or is it something that is purely supplemental that looks like a little bit less? What's kind of like a happy, workload for a dancer out there that may be interested in this?
God, that's a good question. And I also wanted to note, dancing for so many years, I feel the best in my body I ever have, and I'm into my 30s. To answer your question though, I'm breaking a sweat talking about this. I'm gonna be so just excessively talking about fitness and cross training, and then
it's
just
okay.
sweating.
It's okay.
Generally speaking, because you're already expending so much energy on dance, and obviously you don't want to stop dancing or dance less for cross training as best as you like. That's just not realistic. So I would say go light. Generally speaking, especially if you're starting or you're already feeling burnt out, go into that 60 to 80% range of difficulty, really a moderate amount. And then I would say, generally speaking, start with very little. So even if it's 30 minutes once a week to start, ideally 30 minutes 3 times a week, spacing it out with a day in between. You want it to be sustainable. And if your body's already dealing with inflammation, which it likely is, and you're now adding something else on, it's just like putting, not to compare us to animals, but you have like a donkey. I have this visual. It's tired. You're not going to put a huge load on it. It's going to collapse. You want to be incremental. So and dancers are also used to going so hard with everything. So the tendency with workouts is to do the same. And no, absolutely not. You can be so much more efficient with that.
I love that. And I think that makes perfect sense. A little bit of a pivot here, but I'm just interested. Sure. What's something you're seeing in dance as a whole right now, and particularly, the spaces that you're existing in? What's something that you're seeing where you either, maybe it's not that you don't agree or anything that deep, but that you're something that you're noticing that's like, this is odd, or this is off, or this is strange?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I had the first thing that came to mind,
Yeah, give me
but
that.
I don't know if it's strange.
I don't know. Let's hear it.
Um,
Let's decide
I
together.
feel like a lot of stuff, I'm scared to sound preachy. It's a carbon copy of a carbon copy of a carbon copy, and we're not getting to the
Mm,
root of where the movement comes from.
mm,
And so I feel like we have this amazing, amazing retention in choreography. Oh my gosh, just great execution.
yeah.
But because you have less training in the dance forms that informed it, because we have a lot of classes that are different types of fusion, um, you
Interesting.
things kind of all start looking the same. And then the other thing is sometimes in LA, I love you, I reside here, and I'm so hard on you sometimes, LA, but I'll keep paying my taxes here. Um, Also, a lot of the time when it's time to take a hip hop class, it's really hard to find a hip hop class that's actually doing hip hop. That's two things in one. And I'm not
Mm,
trying to be the police or anything, but I've had it before where I was looking for a hip hop class and I wasn't. Now, listen up, y'all. If you're like, no, 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 but there's this one class, absolutely amazing. I'm just talking about my own lived experience.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. It's something that I talk about in the competitive space quite a bit. Is that, part of the reason why there's so much confusion around hip hop is because, you know, kids and even adults are constantly going to classes labeled as hip hop that aren't necessarily hip hop, and then that just furthers the confusion and furthers the narrative of what is versus what isn't. So I don't think that's out of pocket at all. I think that makes sense, and I think that's an interesting topic too. Of like, yeah, if you were lacking in the source material, then inevitably, like, I like the way you said it. Like, if you're lacking in that foundational moment that's inspired what we're doing today, and you're jumping straight to the inspiration component, then there's a lot kind of left on the table there.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of vocabulary missing, and I'm so not perfect on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not into, I think that there's a lot of gray area, and I'm all for innovation that things won't always look the same. But I think that when dancers aren't learning the original vocabulary and just movements from the dances that are informing what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
um, they have less to work with.
Mm.
And that's where some of the nuances and choices get lost. When I was choreographing for the Spark Kids, so that was the WNBA team, and a dancer was auditioning, so this was for a professional job, and they had background in foundations. It could be anything: light feet, popping, locking, house. I could immediately see it, and then I knew that my choreography would look different on them. It's
Mm.
like speaking a language but always using the same accent is going to be so different than speaking a language and understanding the accent and the way you pronounce the words.
Mm. This is it's interesting that you're bringing this up, because this is something that I teach in a convention, and every weekend we are auditioning in our rooms, and I have kept having this reoccurring thought that, like, if I was to go back and be a competitive dancer, which I was not, but let's say I went back and I did that, and I was going to conventions, I feel like I would absolutely delve into a specific street style and be really strong in that, because in an audition setting, especially like in an improv portion of an audition setting, it's like you would instantly stand out because everyone's doing the same exact things. So it's interesting that you bring that up, and I have a follow-up question, because and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but you started getting into street styles in New York. Was there ever sort of like did it ever feel like there was a gatekeeper, or like was there ever a discomfort or a unsureness when you started venturing into those areas? And for anybody listening that's like, I really want to get into, this or this, but I'm afraid or I'm nervous. Was there any of that when you started navigating that, and how did you kind of get past that?
1,000%. Okay. I want to give you the response that gives you enough, but I don't end up talking for half an hour and we
Yeah, I
use up
mean,
all this.
you're the
Oh,
guest.
snap. Okay, okay. Oh, okay. And can you hold me accountable to make sure that I get to what I did about any intimidation
Okay,
factor?
great.
Yeah. So I'm about 13. I'm at Steps. There's a hip hop class. Robin Dunn is teaching it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she had to have been a gateway teacher for a lot of people. And I love the way that she taught, and she teaches still, I think at Ailey Extension, is that
Okay.
she would incorporate history and other street styles in the hip hop class as part of the warm up. Brilliant. Give us those seeds. Okay, we have popping. She's teaching us about the Fresno. We're understanding it's a funk style. We then we learn what funk styles are and some locking.
Wow.
We have
Okay.
to say what year hip hop started in. If we're missing it, we do some push-ups.
Yeah. Yeah.
She talks about breaking the seat. She's such a great teacher.
Mm.
So immediately I'm walking into it, and my posture was from jazz, and I have to say, jazz that was steeped in a ballet influence, or not to
Got you.
be confused with the original jazz, which is
Yep.
vernacular jazz, which is
Yep.
not necessarily what's being done. But anyways, I just want to have something for everyone listening. Immediately, I didn't know how to ground myself, so I had a bun, and so yeah, like, and I was 13. I think it was mostly grown-ups in the
Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
I remember having my best friend, who we're still super tight, take the class with me, and she was really a bunhead. And after the class, she wouldn't talk. She was so mad. And then there was this element of, there's more. I'm from the birthplace of hip hop, but where do I find it? And I remember asking Robin, where's the underground?
Yeah.
Where's the underground? I'm trying to find the underground. I'm searching for it. And she's probably thinking, oh, this studio child. She connected me with a crew that still exists. Shout out to Violeta Galagarza, KR3Ts in Spanish Harlem. And that was a crew that they still exist, which was like a movie where you're learning different combinations, routines. You have like kids from the neighborhood, teens, people in their 20s. You have amazing breakers using the space and teaching you how to do freezes. You're doing just a bunch of different styles. I've learned to say dance forms, but we were also saying styles. And then I remember being there, and I wanted to learn how to whack, and we would have different pioneers come through and club dancers. And I remember asking them, so this is me in my teen years. And by the way, I joined KR3Ts when I was about, I think I was 16. I was 15 or 16. So some years had passed. And I remember I just walk up, to whoever the teacher was. I'm like, will you teach me how to whack? Because I saw they would do it. And they'd say, no, I don't want to get it wrong. So I'm here trying to earn learning, because people, out of respect, if they were not a teacher, if they felt like they weren't at the level that they could teach it, they wouldn't show it.
Yep.
And so that it wouldn't be misconstrued, so that it wouldn't be mistaught, so that they weren't disrespecting the people who have put in the time. That's my mentality. And then I was trying so hard to get into the club, but and I remember turning 18, and I was so excited to turn 18. And then I learned you had to be 21. So I was trying to sneak into any club that would have me. I freestyled with the breakers in Times Square. I made money one time. Like, I was dancing in the street. My hunger for it really drove it, and I did not. So that was that. And I wanted it so badly. And this was for all dance. I would get really frustrated. And I remember, same thing as I'm coming back from dance class, this might happen. I would then be, and I was raised by both my parents, my mom and my dad, but my mom got the brunt of this. I'd be in her room, and I would just pace back and forth like, oh, today the teacher talked down to me, but I know I got it. And I'm just pacing in her room, and she's like, honey, I'm trying to go to sleep. So I always had fire, and because I didn't have any, oh yeah, come in, no problem, you're one of us, or anything. I had to believe in myself, and I had to push for it, and I had to give no fluffs about it and just propel myself, because the other option is that you just sit out, and I wasn't about to do that. Yep.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. Yeah, you kind of have to just like jump in the fire and hope for the best. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's the thing, I had musicality, but I wasn't ever really oh, wow, you're so good. You've made it. So I had to work my way up, and
Yeah.
there was no, I wasn't entitled to anything. Now, what I
Mm.
wanted and dreamt of was getting validation from my teachers, and especially from people in the street scene. I wanted validation so bad. At the same time, I don't know if I ever heard the compliments when I got them.
Yeah.
And I would get a mix. I would get a mix of feedback of no one's looking your way. You also didn't really have women in the cipher much. I also would get a you
Pause.
go girl.
That thought, hang, I want to
Yeah,
sit on
please.
that thought for a second, because that is, I think that that's like really, really interesting. You said, I, I wanted validation, but I also don't think that I was listening whenever I got it. Do you feel like that's something, this is a little bit of a pivot here, but
Sure.
do you feel like that's something that still happens? Cuz I feel like that like resonates heavy.
Absolutely. I haven't outgrown that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How, like how do you even start to think about overcoming that or being more present for those moments?
Well, I have a business coach.
Mm,
And in our meeting, in our session yesterday, she talked about journaling your wins and doing it throughout the day or twice a day or at the end of the day.
mhm.
I think actually acknowledging the wins is the biggest thing, and not having any win be too small to acknowledge.
Mm.
So that for me is the best one, because
Yeah, that's great.
I've been told before, it's not your voice in your head negating it. It's a voice of someone who negated it verbally years ago, and you have that person in your head still.
Mm.
But that doesn't stick with me, especially when I'm hard on myself. The tool
Yeah.
of taking inventory is a lot easier.
Mm. That's interesting. That's interesting. I love that. I love that. Jumping back.
Sure.
So the intimidation component, when you were feeling like that feeling of like, okay, because I totally get that of like, you want answers and everyone's like, nah, not me, that person. And you're like, okay. Um, how did you, I mean, why not just give up? Why not just be like, all right, whatever, I'm done. Like, I'll go take a class back at Broadway or something.
Yeah, no, because that's a good question. And please, if I'm going off for too long, please like
No,
cut
no, no,
me
no,
off.
no, not at all.
Perfect. Um, no, because my want was stronger than the thing that would have me sit out. And I could
Mm,
not, at my core, have that be the thing that knocks me out. Is
yeah,
it somebody saying no that's going to have me stop? Because I mean, and I'm talking about someone saying, oh no, I don't know how to teach you this or where you'll find it. I just didn't have a concept of, there was no concept of stopping there. Why would I?
yeah.
But I think if I were to isolate it, it was the want and the calling being stronger than that. And people weren't mean about it. They were just like hands off.
That was going to be my next kind of pivot. Is I feel like one thing that I definitely can attribute to freestyle culture and just street culture in general is there is not necessarily a lot of like, you aren't good enough to hold this space, so please don't be here. And I feel like that creates this environment where you do feel like anything is possible, even if you don't quite know how to achieve it yet.
Well, I have an opposite actually. So, I also grew up going to house parties, not like house music, but parties in apartments. That's a very inner city New York thing. We call
Yeah.
them house parties.
Yep.
I mean, none of us actually lived in a house, but house parties, and you'd have like reggaeton, hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually it. Maybe a bachata would go in. It depends what neighborhood you're in. And at the parties, I guess this will be the one, because I would get shit because I did not look like everyone there a lot of the time, or I looked like
Mm,
someone light skinned cousin. So if I and somebody would always, not always, but usually there would be sometimes somebody would try to fight. I'm not a fighter or anything, but I had to hold my ground. And so the way I did it is,
mm,
if I dance, I have to dance confidently. And I
mm.
think that that's something that's sometimes missing when we get out of that environment. Is one of the roots of party dances and street dances are parties, or like
Yeah.
actual parties.
Yeah.
And I had to have a poker face, a don't mess with me face, and a confidence in my movement. And
Yeah.
we were not usually ciphering. It would be maybe like winding to dance hall, but
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't be throwing some crazy freestyle. It was your rhythm,
Yeah.
how you look. And I would say that actually really helped build something inside of me because I had to be so sure of myself. In the
Yeah.
dance scene, I'm probably not even that like as confident as I was over there. But yeah,
I
it
mean,
wasn't so
I
positive.
feel the same exact way. I think I've always said like I think when it comes to like a freestyle aspect, some of my best rounds are like when it doesn't matter, you know, whether it's a cipher or it was a party or whatever it was. Like I I I feel like that was when I was like the most active, and I think it was because of a lot of what you're talking about, because yeah, it was so much more than just the dancing. It was like what was your overall energy? Because as soon, and especially like in freestyle culture, it's like the minute you show any sort of weakness, it's like okay, that's it. I got you. Like it's a wrap now. And I feel like now kind of I get what you're saying, opposing my point to begin with is we don't really have that in tradition, whatever we want to call it, studio dance spaces. I like what did you say, overground overground
Oh yeah,
spaces.
overground.
We don't necessarily, there isn't necessarily an element of that. There isn't necessarily an element of confidence training the same way there is for when you just happen to grow up in inside of, you know, any of the cultures that you've mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also is helpful. Even that's where it's just go. I mean, that's not their roots to that. But if I was just was to say that those are some of my roots in my journey,
Yeah.
they're formative. And even when I teach, I like to sometimes bring up, well, this is where a lot of the dances come from. So what is that vibe like? Or even if they're seeing a movie about it,
Yeah.
I think it helps inform it, and not to be nitpicky about the way it shows up. I feel like if freestyle is being encouraged in a space, that's beautiful. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So now, sort of connecting here, at what point did you go back to that overground space, that studio space? Was there a crossover of those worlds for you at any point, and what did that look like?
I think I was always training in both in my formative training years. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I always actually have had one foot in each, and I'm probably a one foot in each person. Maybe I need to explore that at some point. I don't know if it's good or bad. Like, I was a theater major in high school, but I
Yeah.
was dancing after school and on the weekends.
Yeah.
So that was my one foot in each. I always stayed with studio classes and I always stayed with underground once I did it. What it looked like is I'm going to dance practice slash rehearsal for KR3Ts 4 hours on Tuesdays, 4 hours on Sundays. That's already 8 hours out of the week. And I booked my first gigs with them. I might be taking a couple classes at Broadway Dance, maybe a dance hall. I was
Mm.
taking ballet at Ballet Hispanico. I was Hispanico. I always get weird. I'm like with Spanish and English. My family has debates about this because some of the people in my family speak Spanish. So, anyways, ballet Hispanico.
There you go. Yeah, that's the right one.
um, blah blah blah. But I was always actually always pushing in both directions. So when
Got
I
you.
learned I'm taking hip hop and house and we have West African roots, I was at Harlem School of the Arts learning West African. So I was always in both. And it
Yeah.
wasn't ever screw you, studio. I'm going to the
Yeah.
streets now. It was more like I'm gonna do studio stuff in the studio and
Yeah.
street dance in the streets.
Yeah. Do you feel like that you know, now we're going to make a little full circle here
Oh,
hopefully. Do
good.
you feel like that in a way was your cross training at that point in time? Do
I
you
was
feel
doing
like those worlds complemented each other?
um in theory they did. I was really struggling with my body in ballet. And I mean that my
Mm.
hip flexors felt inflamed, that it was really hard to hold center.
Mm.
It's two different ways of going when you have the Afro-diasporic dances versus the Eurocentric dances. So
Yeah.
really being upright in one, and I know that you know what I'm talking
Yep.
about,
Yep.
versus having a completely different posture in the other. that was actually challenging, but I know that my approach and attack, and I feel like New York growing up did this really well, that people would train in a lot of different dance forms. So you would see a certain attack in zhuzh, even in ballet, that was really fun that you might not see somewhere else,
Yeah.
depending where you went.
Yeah.
They helped each other for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry. And even just being pulled up in ballet and feeling comfortable when a turn was in that jazz funk class,
Yeah.
that was great. I was cross training with fitness the whole time. So it really was 3 different components. We'll call it underground, overground, or street styles, more studio, and then doing fitness at the same time, which I was made fun of, by the way. I was made fun of because I was a little muscular, but that's also my build.
Yeah.
I had a jazz teacher who said, "Why are you doing that?" And she made a bicep. She said, "Everything you need is here in class." And it wasn't exactly, because my body wasn't doing what she wanted. I had to find out how to make it happen through some other modalities. So they all helped each other.
100%.
They all helped each other so much. And it makes it more fun also, because then one class you feel like you're taking a break from the other class, so it puts less pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. The kind of, last-ish topic that I want to talk about with you, and I'm curious your thoughts on, is, and we were kind of talking about this before we started the episode. What are your feelings around social media and this idea of building a brand in the dance space and a business, and how do you navigate that as an individual? Is it difficult? Is it easy? Do you struggle with it? How do you continue?
Such a good question. First, I need to own that I think I have just about fewer followers than anyone I interview have. So I hope you did not think you're interviewing like a social media influencer. I have under 5K. Like,
no.
So I want to.
But you're doing the thing regardless. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, even having your podcast, like you're involved in the space.
Thank you. I received that. I received that. Back to the topic earlier on. Social media, I've struggled with it for a long time. Why? Well, first of all, I'm like hooked on Instagram and not even being productive on it half the time because it sucks you in. And I'd love to know, do you have a way around it?
Not getting sucked in?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I feel like I'm like an extremist in both ways. Like I'm either on it way too much, or I don't even open it the whole day, and then I'm not doing anything either way. So it's like I'm either not productive and on it, or I'm off it and not productive. So no, I mean, I try to like post and ghost as much as I can. That's definitely something that I sort of live by. I don't really engage with a lot of people's content, and I don't follow a lot of people either for that reason. But no, I mean, it's a struggle.
It's so when it was newer, a conversation I was having with friends was how inauthentic it felt, and how we felt like we needed to do things that we just don't want to do, dances that we don't want to do. I don't enjoy doing challenges. I don't think I ever do. If it sparks joy for others, oh my gosh, do it. Amazing. It takes a lot of time, and it's not beyond me that we're spending a lot of time. Yes, it can help with your brand, but also it's ultimately making Instagram money and it's making other people money, but we're creating the content for free. So that's one side of it. But the other side of it is I do feel it's important to have it there. Depends what you're pursuing, but it's your business card. It's the thing that people look at to, see if you're legit. It's social proof. So I think that it's important, and at the same time, it's absolutely a struggle, and no one truly knows what's next. I would say for dancers, absolutely, to have a fantastic representation of what you bring to the table. For me, I have learned from my friends that do well with social media, I need to really have something that's solving problems or entertaining or doing something for my audience. And I'm like, I just don't have the time to curate at that level. So I utilize it as a hey, I'm here. Let's keep in touch. And when someone is ideally looking for someone who does what I do, they will think of me. So I use it as a reminder that I exist. I like to also sometimes get creative with it. That can feel good. It can feel like a fun creative endeavor. I don't force it. And then lastly, I realize that I work and I do the things that I do regardless of it. And where some
Mm.
people I know, they've been crushing it with social media, and I'm so happy for them. Um, I realize for me, that might not be the thing that happens easily for me, but it doesn't mean that it's a make or break. I still teach for programs that I'm so excited to teach for, and I get
Yeah,
hired by people I'm excited for, and I produce my own stuff. So that's my answer on the social media.
I love that. I love that. What's next for you? What's like what's the next 3 years look like? What's the goal for the next 3 years?
Ooh, I love that question. I've been working for a really long time on the things that I bring to the table, from when I
Mm.
started at that 12, 13, and who I trained under and how I trained, to years and years of teaching, to years and years training,
Yeah.
to years and years podcasting. And I realize I feel like I've been a little bit shy or polite not to bring my whole self to the table, because, oh my gosh, will I sound too full of it if I
Mm.
say, no, actually, I can do this, that, and the third. I'm not just one.
Mm.
And I'm really excited in these next few years to really come to programs and give them movement, dance classes, to give them cross training, and to talk to them if there's any way that I can further their journey through a conversation.
Mm.
I feel that there's a lot that I deliver through my words because of the
Mm.
years from podcasting, because I was a theater major, but now there's stories to tell and questions to answer. So I'm excited to connect with more programs and the students that are looking to level up through what I have to offer.
Mm.
At the same time, outside of our wonderful industry, I'm looking at going into the corporate world and bringing dance and movement specifically to women, middle
Mm.
age and up, because I feel like so many people lose touch with dance and go into their 9 to 5s, and they want nothing more, whether they know it or not yet, to be active, to be in their bodies,
Yeah.
and do it in a way that feels good for them. And that's like not generic, to be like not generic in the space that
Yeah.
tends to attract generic. And then to keep podcasting. I'm
I
excited
love that.
for our interviews to come out. I want to keep just sharing the stories in the dance speak space as well.
Yeah, I love that. I always like to finish up with an actionable. I used to call it the golden nugget. But it's really just an actionable component. So imagining, you're a dancer that's listening to this episode, you're hearing all these amazing things that you're talking about, and you're like, okay, I'm on board. I want to start cross training, or I want to just level up my dancing. What's something that somebody could start tomorrow and take a step in the right direction for kind of what we've been talking about and discussing?
Sure. You probably don't know this. I'd be remiss not to share. I have very detailed, in depth, follow along workout videos that are 30
Mm,
minutes. You can do in less, called Fit from Home. So I'm going to just plug that because I
mm,
created it for that.
plug it.
Go galit.com, GOGALIT.com. Click on online fitness course. You can also DM me. I go Galit and just ask questions. Um, and let's say, putting that aside, the 10 plus workouts that you can do from anywhere, including the hotel room
Hmm.
at convention. One thing is for cardio, speed walking at least 30 minutes in a row. It's not a big deal, but usually because dancers are starting and stopping and starting and stopping, their cardio is not always great. You
Hmm.
can build up so much cardio stamina through just speed walking 30 minutes
Interesting.
straight. Yeah, you're not going to feel usually like you're dying, or, oh my gosh, you can listen to this very podcast here.
Yeah.
Um, the other one simple thing is get your plank together. Get a nice plank. And it's one exercise. It's one of the top exercises I recommend.
I love a plank.
Get your plank together. I'll even share a video if you DM me. Just get your plank together, because it's going to be great for your posture, your turns, your jumps, your directional changes in any dance form. So I'd say those are two small actionable steps with cross training. Wait, that was your question, right? I didn't go on a
No,
tangent. Oh,
that was
thank God.
fantastic answer. And if you're listening to this or watching this, the website's fantastic as well. The website looks incredible. So there's another little gas up for you. It really does look great.
Thank
Um,
you.
Thank you so much for your time. Last but not least, let everybody know, you plugged the website already. Where can
Sure.
people find you? Where are you online? Give us the website one more time. Give us all the links.
Thanks. Oh my gosh. This is so fun. I don't want this to end. So I'm gonna take 5 hours. No, Instagram, I'm there too often. You already know at Go Galit, Gogalit. You can DM me. If it looks like I didn't see it, just comment on a post because it might mean it's just hidden because IG can be weird. The podcast IG at Dance Speak Podcast, my website, gogalit.com. I really blanked out for a second. Gogalit.com. I think that's it because my email, you have it on my Instagram, galitdanslander@gmail.com. And then, yeah, as well, check out Dance Speak, plugging it on another podcast because I feel like these podcasts are going to be best friends with each other.
100%.
Very complimentary. Thank you for having me. You're amazing at this. I'm not surprised.
Thank you so much.
I knew
Thank
you would be. Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. And if you're, for anybody that's listening, all of that Galit just plugged will be in the description. So if you didn't catch it, check that out. And definitely check out what they've got going on because it's, it's so important. So thank you again for your time. I really, really appreciate you.
Thank you. My pleasure. I live for this. So much fun. Yay.